in the middle of the night or early Friday morning, depending upon where you are in the world, a group of experienced comics professionals get together to examine and instruct about the art form that they love. That's great comic artwork on Comics by Night, Fridays at 5 a.m. Eastern, here on the Indie Comics Network, indiecomicsnetwork.com.
What was that? This is not a charade.
Welcome to another Thursday morning Nerd Bacon, live on the streams of YouTube and Twitch, just to name a couple. And we're no longer streaming to Facebook. Guys, I don't know if you knew this or not, but Facebook can take a long walk off a short pier.
What happened?
Yeah. It's always a little problem with them. They're always flagging them for some reason. They flag the shows, and they don't let us. You can't see them later. They take them down.
That's weird.
Yeah, so it's and actually, to be honest with you, the algorithms all the way around are kind of a pain these days.
We're getting closer to election time.
Yeah, trying to fight through all of that stuff, and the paid bots, all those bots out there, man, they seem to be just crawling. They're crawling everywhere. They're going everywhere. Little spider bots. It's like a dystopian future, only digital, only it's not real. It's all ones and zeros, isn't it? It's kind of weird. But so another beautiful morning here. Broadcasting from Indiana. We had a good day yesterday. It was in the 80s, guys. It was in the 80s here. That's degrees Fahrenheit, Glenn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what it is.
What would that be in Celsius, do you know?
I'm not stupid. I know what it is. I'm not very clever, but I'm not stupid.
Is that about 20 Celsius? 25?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. Was it, what is it, 30?
30 degrees is freezing here.
32, is it? Something, I don't know. It's all bollocks to me. I don't care. All I know is that
crazy?
Yesterday, we had, over the weekend, we had a really nice weekend I don't know what the temperature was. You'd have to ask Helen about that. I don't bother about stuff like that. It was warm. And yesterday it started raining and it hasn't stopped. Yesterday morning, it hasn't stopped since. We've had 24 hours of rain, 30 hours of rain, and it's not looking like it's going to stop. So
we got thunderstorms today. So here's a little bit of Murphy's Law for you. Okay, for my birthday, which was May 5th, 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I got a fire pit because I wanted a little fire pit for the deck thing we've got out on the side of the house, so we can sit around there at night, turn the fire on, and sing little songs, play a little music, and just kind of hang out there. Well, they'd ordered it, and it was late coming for my birthday, so didn't get there on the birthday. But they had shipped it, and it wound up getting shipped past Indiana, and wound up getting held up. Well, it just showed up yesterday, or the day before yesterday, and my wife and son put it together yesterday. Okay, and so today would be a perfect day to get it fired up, but it's storming now. We had 80-degree weather, mild 60 to 70-degree nights for the last week and a half, and now that the fire pit's here, it's ugly. So that's how it works, isn't it?
Yep.
That's how you turn from a bright-faced, hopeful, youthful young man to Glenn.
Thanks.
I'm messing with you.
I know you are.
What's the expression? Taking the piss out of you? Is that what they?
Yeah.
Is that the British expression?
Yeah. Or taking the mickey.
Taking the mickey?
Yeah, that's the more polite version. That's what you'd say to your mum.
Okay. That's what I would like to say, yeah.
Over here, that was an old detective writing device. You slip somebody a Mickey.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, and over here we have the Mickey Fin, which is if you put something in somebody's drink.
Yeah.
That's a Mickey Fin.
It's like an old Sam Spade thing. She slipped me a Mickey.
Yeah, that's right,
yeah. It's crazy. I remember when the British kid came to school and he kept asking for a rubber, and we all kept laughing.
Did I not tell you that story about that? Do you want me to tell you?
Sure, yeah, please.
I went back in '88 when I went to see Jack Kirby the first time. I went to California. We went to I was with my ex, and she had a daughter, still has a daughter, I presume. And Lisa, the daughter, was she'd be 8 or 9. So we get to California, and we went to see the Spruce Goose. You know, Howard Hughes' playing.
Right.
I don't know whether you've ever seen it, but it's incredible. It's about 3 times bigger than a jumbo jet. It's huge. Anyway, Lisa, my daughter, my stepdaughter, started a collection, started saving what you call erasers. Now we call them rubbers. So my ex, we're standing next to the Spruce Goose, and there's a dummy of Howard Hughes in the cockpit. And you can get up this gantry, get up this gantry next to it. And there was a shop. There's always a shop in America, isn't there, where you can buy a T-shirt and stuff like that about where you are. So we go into this shop, and she's buying a T-shirt for Lisa with Spruce Goose on it and all this kind of thing. And there's a girl behind the counter who's about 16, 17. And my ex said to her, "Do you sell rubbers with the Spruce Goose on?" This girl's eyes are like, "What the fuck?" And I just said,
rubbers here.
So I said, "She means erasers. We call them rubbers." She went, "Oh, no, we don't do them."
That's pretty funny.
Imagine that with a Spruce Goose on.
I also learned early on that cigarettes are called fags. And
yeah, well, there's another story there. Elvis Presley thought that John Lennon was gay because apparently somebody, word of mouth down the line to Elvis, told Elvis that John Lennon had asked one of the security when they were doing a gig in America if he could get him some fags. And we eat these meatball things. They're called faggots.
Baguettes.
No, faggots.
Okay.
But there's that guy at NASA, wasn't there? His name is Faget, and I call him faggot. That's the way I read it.
Mm-hmm.
But he's called Paget, apparently.
Faget.
Faget. Yeah.
It's like the guy. So we call him a pedophile here.
Yeah.
But it's pronounced Peterphile.
That's right. Yeah.
In Britain.
And if we hadn't been banned on YouTube before, we probably are now.
We definitely are now. Right. So if your name is Peter File, and this show, the IT crowd does this whole bit where this gal Jen is dating this guy named Peter File, and so they, and you know, when a Brit says pedophile versus Peter File, it sounds the exact same. Sounds the exact same.
It shows you here's a real name. My friend at college was called David Scrace. Scrace, David Scrace. So his name is Disgrace.
Yeah.
Disgrace.
And I used to give him shit about that. I said, well, what were you and my dad thinking when they called you? He said they probably got it right, you know.
They were prophetic. His parents were prophetic in naming him.
Yeah.
Oh, well. How about you, Randy? We've talked about our week so far.
Yeah, I've just had the week from hell, so it's all good.
Oh, no.
As soon as the show was over last week, my refrigerator dies on me. My freezer's melting meat and whatever else was in the freezer. So luckily, we've got another little one down here, a little freezer, that is, just in case we need to stash a body or whatever. And we brought what we could down here, and we've been running coolers and had to run out and buy another refrigerator.
Great.
You know, we had to have it delivered, and of course they couldn't deliver it on Friday. They had to wait until Monday. We were lucky for that. Independent contractor. Just a long story. Long story short, got a new refrigerator in, but it cost me about 3 or 4 days worth of work. And Monday, Tuesday, I've been trying to catch up, and I chipped a tooth. Having an adventure at the dentist yesterday, which is why I'm probably going to be lisping quite a bit today. So anyway. Yeah, nothing but fun. So it's been a great adventurous week, and I haven't gotten enough comic book work done. Let's put it that way.
I get that. I
got to get back on it.
So I started watching this new show in the evening with it's not new, it's an old show. It's new to me. I just discovered it, called Arrested Development. And in there, one of the characters, his name is Job, but it's spelled G-O-B, so people call him Gob when they just read it. Which I think is a hilarious little bit of comedy that they kind of throw in there. And Will Arnett is the character. So Will Arnett, he's pretty funny. But in there he chips a tooth, and so as he's talking, there's this high pitched whistle every time he says anything with an S, and I'm like, there's no way he was doing that whistle on his own. Like that had to be. But it was pretty funny. He was supposed to be incognito breaking into a place, you know, and he went in to case it, and he's like, the key is to not be noticed. And he goes, he says, can you shine? And just this big whistle, and everyone wants to take a picture with the whistling delivery man and all that. So,
SpaceX. Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, so so when Randy starts whistling today, we'll just start laughing.
Yeah, well, yesterday I was sounding like Sylvester the cat. For a lot of side of my mouth, you know, that kind of stuff.
Suffering succotash.
Pretty much.
Welcome, Dr. Mask, to the chat. Good to have you here this morning. Levi Skeen is in the house. Good to have you here. We got Devil Flyer with us as well. There's Rex and Jay Botts joining us in the house today. It's good to have you here. And then we got Pixel Trader. Welcome, Pixel Trader. And Schism. Remember, if you are in the chat, please feel free to let yourself be known. We will highlight a couple of campaigns this morning here in just a little bit. We don't. The new format of the show is a little faster paced, and it is shorter. So we're not doing things as long as we normally did. And that's what she said. Hold on, I'll get it. That's what she said.
Yeah.
That's what she said. Yeah. So today, our topic is new phone who dis. Okay. So the idea is identifying red flags and collaborators that could potentially, or most likely will lead to a terrible working experience. And then hopefully we can also identify similar behaviors in ourselves so that we can become better collaborators for others, so that we are more sought after. People want to work with us. So that's going to be a little bit of our conversation today. So be thinking along those means. Chat if you have questions about that. If you have stories, feel free to pop those in there. We're going to go ahead and go to this fun little segment. I haven't gotten bumpers for everything yet. I really need to. But this one is, let me see, what would I play for this one? This one is AI stole my identity.
Yay! Think about what you've accomplished.
Check this out. Scarlett Johansson shocked, angered over unauthorized AI voice. I do find this a little ironic. Artists have been yelling and screaming about AI robbing their work for, I don't know, a good year, 2 years.
Yet that's probably an AI generated picture there.
It probably is. It probably is.
Looks like it to me.
Scarlett Johansson has replied to the unauthorized usage of a voice that sounds disturbingly similar to hers from OpenAI's ChatGPT, stating that she was shocked and angered following the revelation that OpenAI employed a voice similar to Johansson's, with many pointing to the parallels between the system and the Spike Jonze 2013 film Her. The actress issued a statement saying she was invited to lend her voice, but eventually declined. And that statement reads as follows: last September, I received an offer from Sam Altman, who wanted to hire me to voice the current ChatGPT 4.0 system. He told me that he felt that by my voicing the system, I could bridge the gap between tech companies and creatives and help consumers to feel comfortable with the seismic shift concerning humans and AI. He said he felt that my voice would be comforting to people. She has a nice voice. I like her voice. After much consideration and for personal reasons, declined the offer. Johansson says 9 months later, my friends, family, and the general public all noted how much the newest system named Sky sounds like me. When I hear the released demo, I was shocked, angered, and in disbelief that Mr. Altman would pursue a voice that sounded so eerily similar to mine that my closest friends and news outlets could not tell the difference. And he just did this post, Her. That's pretty cryptic. It's almost like he's like, yep, I just took the voice from the movie Her.
Yeah.
Because AI tends to steal stuff. Have you noticed? It really isn't about the production of things or making things. They really do tend to steal. Like that's their whole idea, is they're taking other people's hard work and passing it off as their own. I'm a firm believer in if you do the job, you get paid.
I do the job. And then I get paid.
Problem is now you're doing the job and somebody else is passing it off as their work.
But isn't
worse
that
yet, they're selling it.
Isn't that this thing with Wally Wood when he said what you can't draw, copy, what you can't copy, steal, or whatever that quote is? Isn't that the same thing?
It might be. It might be, I guess.
I'm not sure if that's it or not, because the stuff that Wood was stealing and copying and tracing were all in his own style. And what this computer program can do, it's really not artificial intelligence in the purest definition. It's all prompted, and you have to program all of these prompts in. And in order for the computer to be able to render anything, they have to be familiar with Wally Wood's style.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got you.
You people are now able to train AI to sound like them or to write like them.
Mm-hmm.
So that the AI can do the work for them, and it sounds and is passed off as their work.
And
what do you think of that?
The thing here is that in my opinion, they were intentionally infringing on Scarlett Johansson, because I'm sure with a twist of a dial, they could have changed the monitor or the tone of that voice to be unrecognizable from her voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were trying to cash in on her voice because people would recognize it.
That's the suit. That's the reasoning. Yes.
Yeah, she's got a great voice for that
She
kind of
does.
stuff.
Yep.
She does. Yeah. Not everybody has a soothing voice, and it's noted that women are less threatening than men.
Mm-hmm.
So their voices are, because they're more motherly, more matronly, right?
Except when they're doing sport commentary.
Well,
tell me I'm wrong.
How dare you?
I love women, but not when they commented on the football.
There you are.
Nobody loves women more than I do.
People have to know their limitations, right?
Well,
yeah, know what you, yeah.
That is not a joke. That is a natural fact.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a natural fact, guys.
Natural fact.
Welcome, Immortal Rising has joined us in the chat. Good to see you here today. Yeah, so now there's, well, and we've known they've been stealing celebrities' voices.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're like, oh, we're going to make them sound like this or whatever. It's going to get to the point to where you don't know what is real and what is not. But do you think Wally Wood would have used AI? Do you think he would have been a pioneer in AI comics?
no.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
No.
I don't think so either. I'm not really...
Unless somebody ticked him off.
We had someone come up, come ask the other day. They're in a different country, and they want to know, can we fund from such and such country here on Fund My Comic? And I was like, yes, you can. We can process payments, but your business has to be in compliance with your country, or else Stripe won't allow it. So you have to provide all the necessary information. And they said, and then they snuck in at the end, do you allow AI comics? And I was like, no, we don't. And I know that might become an unpopular opinion down the road, but I stand by that. Why would you need to fund something that you didn't pay for?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The whole idea of the crowdfunding the comic is to pay your artist and all of the production that goes into it. And I don't think there's a need if all you're doing is typing it into a prompt.
But if you look at it from the other point of view, and I agree with you, but if you look at it from the other point of view, why do all that work and pay all that money out when you can just click a button and it's done for you?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I get it. I get that too. I find that's lazy, and I think that kind of goes
Yeah,
to some of what our conversation is today about nightmare collaborators, right? I hear all the time horror stories about people working with artists. So I'm working with this, you'll notice him in the chat from time to time, as Holocron Record. But we're working on this book called Pawn. And when I started producing work that he'd hired me for, he seemed pretty shocked, actually. And it turns out that he had spent a lot of money on production pieces and different bits of art and design that he's never received from the artist. And I wish I could say that was a one-off, that's the only time I've heard that. But it's not. It's not. I hear that often. And so I think that that has hurt traditional artists in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
If the work was coming in and it was good, right? If the person was easy to work with, then they would hire that person, irrespective of the cost of that labor. Because quality work and ease of, and just the joy of working with a person, I'm always willing to spend more money. Like I can suck that up. If the person's not easy to work with and they make good work, then I'm probably going to want a discount. Because have you ever heard of the butthole tax?
No.
It's when an artist knows that the client is going to be a potential butthole.
Oh, okay.
So they raise the price to say, well, I'll do it, but it's going to cost you this much.
Yes.
It might cost Joe Schmo this much, but it's going to cost you this much because you're a jackwagon, right? And so I kind of look at that sometimes in reverse. There's certain people I'd hire, but you're gonna be a real pain in the neck to try to get the work that I want out of you. So I'm not willing to pay your price, like that price, which is why a lot of people go to Fiverr for things like 3D or colors, flats, things like that. They'll go for a lot of this stuff. They'll go to Fiverr so they can get it cheaper and done quickly, right? Because time, money, and quality is kind of like that triad. Have you ever heard of that triad, Glenn? Where you've got to pick, you can't have all three. So it's either going to be expensive but good and fast, or it's going to be good and cheap and fast, right? So you got to...
Yeah, I've heard of that. But the way, I mean, I'm no hero, believe me, but the way I work is that I'm always going to give you the best I can do. Whatever you pay me, I can't do a $2 drawing against a $100 drawing. I can't do that.
Right. Yeah.
You will get the same thing. It might not be any good. It might be the best thing you've ever seen, but it is what it is, and that's what you're going to get. I can't do that. I can't do a less, because that's insulting myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I see it. So
I'm the same way.
If anybody ever hires me for anything, what they get from that is what they get. I haven't done it because I didn't get the money I wanted, or because I don't like them, or whatever. If I don't like them, I won't do it.
Yeah, I've kind of gotten to that point in my life where, before I would take work from people I didn't care for, but now I don't take work from anyone I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to really like the project for long-term gigs. For a cover or pin-up, I don't have to necessarily know much about the project. But the person I'm dealing with has to be nice. They can't be a butthole,
Mm-hmm. I think when you start giving work out for collaboration, you've got to be happy with the people you work with. It's no good doing it for somebody you don't like. And I think that you've also got to have the same kind of vision, because somebody can drastically alter your work if you're not working in the same direction. That's important.
Right.
Yeah. About 50% of the artists I've asked for work from have been a headache, usually because of communication, Aaron says, over at Immortal Rising Comics. And communication is a pretty big deal, I think, when it comes to the collaboration. Now, what are some? Let's say, Glenn, you're getting ready to work with someone. You're hired because you've ran a studio, right? Yeah. You've been the man in charge. Randy, you've done the same thing, editor in chief. Mm-hmm. What are some of the red flags when someone comes around looking for work that makes you think, they might be a problem?
I think, in my experience, the work that I was organising and running through the studio was always from big companies. It was very rare that somebody would turn up and want a 12-page brochure producing by the end of next week. Do you understand what I mean? So they were always established companies that I dealt with, and I would get work subcontracted through agencies. I ran a studio, not an agency. And so you get an advertising agency like, say, Brunnings, I did a lot of work for, called Brunnings. I don't know whether they're still going or not, probably not. And they were on, literally on the floor underneath my studio. and I'd be up and down the stairs the whole day getting these jobs done. And but I do remember one guy came through and he wanted the world, and he wanted it for the week on Friday. And I said to him, well, it didn't have all the information. We didn't agree a price. He said, "Oh, I've got these roughs. I'll just work on these roughs to start with." And I said, "Well, we need to sit down for half an hour and talk about payment and when payment and delivery, what you want, blah blah blah." No, well, I haven't got time for that. And I thought, no. Well,
then
I said,
you ain't got time for.
Yeah, I said I haven't got time to do what you want me to do because I don't know what you want me to do. You got to work the price. I've got 7 artists in there. I've got to work out what the hourly rate for the cost against the artwork and all the printing and all the stuff. Randy knows this. A lot of money involved in printing. That guy, the printer he don't care whether the job's on time or not. He's got that press free and he wants to run that press. So you're going to start paying. If you're supposed to have that there at 2:00 on Tuesday afternoon and you haven't, he's still going to pay for his press.
Yep.
So you need to take all these things into consideration. And then later, when I worked at a place, I wasn't in charge of the studio or anything, but I used to have a run-in with the marketing people all the time because there were 7 marketing people, and none of them, they were all younger than me, right? Because I'm really old, but because they're 25 and gorgeous, they know everything. They're just out of college, just out of university. They've all got a degree, but none of them had a degree in marketing.
Yeah.
Now I've not got a degree in marketing, but I said 4 years. One guy was there, and he got a geology degrey, and he was telling me about how Everest works, how the continents squash together and push it up, and it's taken 58 billion years for it to be 5. But I said, what's that got to do with this campaign that we're working on? It's very interesting, but let's talk about that in the pub, And he couldn't, and so I'm being awkward because I wanted information off him. I'm being awkward. Well, my job is to take information and produce something.
Yeah.
And I'm the awkward one. And I'm just sick of. I just don't suffer these fools anymore.
Right.
I just.
So some of the. You said you had 7 artists working under you.
Yeah.
Did you ever have to let any of them go?
No, that was. I recommended one guy who was like, go to my boss, and he was. But I didn't actually say,
all right,
get out there.
So what was it about that guy that recommended you get the sack?
He wouldn't listen to direction. Now, I was studio manager, and I was studio manager for a reason. And he wouldn't accept anything I said to him. I'd say to him, like, Randy, you know a Reaper Master camera, don't you, Randy? You stop it down on the f-stops and all that kind of thing. It's for photographs and PMTs, placement, all that. And we'd be really, really up against it. We were really busy, really tight deadlines. This job needs to be out in 20 minutes. And I'd say to this guy, go into the dark room and set the camera on F2 for 15 seconds. That will give you the print I want on that artwork. 25 minutes later, he's still fucking about with his camera. And I banged on the door. I said, what are you doing, Steve? It's got to go out 10 minutes ago. And he said, oh, I was just doing a test on it. And I said, I told you. Do you understand what I mean? My experience was I knew exactly what was needed. We didn't have time to mess about. And that's what he did. And he did it. Everything I said, I'd say that's in 10-point Helvetica. Do it on lead it at 12-point. It'll be perfect. So he'd do it on 9 on 15. I said, boy, what are you doing? What are you doing? So anyway,
didn't trust your decisions. So I think for me that's a massive red flag when I'm working with someone, is whether or not they will listen. Are they, that bullheadedness. I think gets in. When they don't trust your call on things, especially if it's your project. If you're the one in charge.
Yeah.
Thinking, like if I'm the writer on something and I'm hiring an artist, and there's always room for letting the artist kind of be a collaborator, what do you think? Let's see your design in this, what's going on there. But when something has to be precise, it's like, and you just start deviating from the preciseness
Yeah.
and saying, oh, well, I don't like this, or I think,
Let me give you an example. We had these things called, what they call them barkers. You know, when you go in the supermarket and it says baked beans, 59 pence. They're called barker. They're shelf barkers. So we call the shelf barkers, right? And we had a big account with what's called the co-op, or what's called the co-op press, cooperative press over here. And sorry, not cooperative press, not co-op press, the cooperative. And it was a chain of supermarkets. And we ran these barkers. We used to produce these barkers. They're about 6 inches by 12, and they used to stick on the sides of the shelves in the supermarket. And they got these supermarkets all over the country. And we used to do the artwork, and it'd say baked beans were 59 pence, now 25, that kind of thing. And they were all done in a set size, like 200-point Helvetica bold, italic, something you could really read easily. And it was the right size for the shelf, where it was going to be on the shelf, and for your visual aid as you were walking down the aisle looking for some beans, right?
Yeah.
And this was a set thing. This was the co-op told us it had to be in 200 point, whatever it was. They gave us all the information, and that was it. So all the typesetting was done to that size and then pasted down and then sent off and all that kind of thing. Anyway, later, when we got our own typesetting service in-house, I gave this Steve guy, the same guy, this job of these barkers. And he told the typesetter he wanted them in 250 point.
Oh.
And she didn't know. So she just did all this reams of typesetting, galleys. Randy knows what I'm talking about. And it costs hundreds of pounds. And it takes all day to print out.
Yeah.
And it was wrong because he decided he was going to increase the height of the type. I said, you can't. I said, what are you doing? Not only have we lost a day, it's cost 250 quid. And all I've got from it is that you're a bigger idiot than I thought you were. And he says, do you know what he said? Well, Sue, the typesetter, well, she printed it out. I said, she did what you told her. It's not for her to, do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, it was your job to tell her what to do. And
You
she
tried to blame it on her.
Oh my gosh.
But I was right back there
So-
then. Jesus, that's 50 years ago.
So I was working with a colorist on a job, and this was someone else's job. I was their artist. We were trying to find a colorist to collaborate with. There's a reason why I use Patrick Gamma for almost everything. There's a reason why. It's because, number one, he takes direction really well. I've worked with him for so long I can almost do a shorthand in my artwork with him, because I know that he's going to do a certain thing, because he knows that that's what I would normally do there. So I've kind of made a shorthand for it. Unspoken, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, it just has occurred over the last 10 years of working with Patrick, that's what's happened. And he's timely, and he's just easy to work with. He's a joy to work with. And he produces really cool work. It looks great. Some people would if you want to get down to some technicalities with it, there might be, as a editor, I've seen okay, it's not, it could be more, right? But it's good. It does I'm really happy with it. Does a really good job. People that are reading the comics, they're not going to be able to. Some of them might, but most of them, the average reader is not going to be like, well, he could have done this here with this layer and da-da-da-da-da, whatever. Getting into the technical aspects of what he could have done. Well, that would have created more time, which creates more cost, right? But so he's a great guy to work with. There's a reason why. And I was reminded again the reason why. So there was this colorist that kept asking for work. I'm always wary of the ones that come into your inbox and ask you to hire them.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my experience, I find that the people that are doing decent work and are easy to work with they'll put it out like, hey, commissions are open, and people will come in and say, okay, I've got some work I'd like you to do. And that's how they keep busy. But I'm finding that when people come into your inbox and request work, that they turn out to be like this colorist. So he takes the prompt, and the prompt was unusual for the project. And the creator was rather new, so wasn't great at communicating exactly what their needs were or what they were really envisioning. But we were getting there, right? But this colorist took every prompt that I gave, every prompt the creator gave, ignored every last one of them, and did exactly what they wanted to do, right? On top of not being technically proficient with the work and aesthetically unpleasing, they didn't follow any of the prompts. When addressed, when gone to about the problem, he blamed the artist. Bear in mind, I'm the artist. Well, they did this, that, and and all this. I'm like, dude, I'm the one that drew that, so bump off, right? And we wound up taking that project, and Gamma wound up coloring it. Mm-hmm. And it was chef's kiss when he got his hands on it. He was busy when we started, but by the time we finally got through several colorists that just weren't going to make the cut, but I will never ever work with that guy again. And then it turns out that he was using a name that's different than his original name, because he had already burned a bunch of bridges before. So now he was burning bridges under his new name in his new account. And I will never work with that guy again. If anybody comes and says, hey, what do you think of this guy? I'm like, don't work with him. Like, I mean, do it if you want, but I had a bad experience, right? And that's where that word of mouth comes in. It's like, I had a bad experience working with this. It's like, I had bad food at the restaurant, or that mechanic didn't do a good job. It's not some whisper network that people think exists. It's word of mouth when people are trying to hire collaborators, and on the other hand, I've had some amazing colorists where I'm like, I've just been so pleased with the work they do. Like, I would say Eric Hodson is one of my favorite colorists, because you give him something to color, and by the time it's done, there's nothing that needs to even be adjusted hardly. Glenn, I've hired you for a couple of logos, title designs. Love working with you. Every title design I need, I'll be hiring you for. It's professional. It's clean. It's quick. And I give 0 prompts for my stuff. I'm like, I want something kind of like this. I don't know. I got a feeling that I would like to portray. And somehow Glenn takes my obscure feelings and turns them into a title design, which, I could do, because I do title design too, but it would take me hours and hours to do this, fumbling through fonts, because that's not I'm so indecisive on my own stuff. Now, when it's coming to other people's stuff, I seem to be quick and decisive on their work, but when it's for me, I'm like, I don't know, maybe this, maybe that. I start getting experimental, and then I get in a rabbit hole, and 3 days later I come back up, and I haven't eaten or slept. So I'll just hire Glenn. Yeah,
just hire me.
Welcome, past Master Dan's in the house. Apex Comics is with us this morning. Great to have you here. We've also got, there we go. Yeesh. What a dummy. Yeah. The 250 point. Oh my gosh. I would, welcome Doc Blaylock's in the house. Good to have you here. I can't believe it. I would have had him sacked too. I really would have.
There was one guy at the same place, but he left before this guy was hired. He had some kind of breakdown, which he got through, and he was fine. But we didn't know at the time. He was just acting odd. But I had to do work on a job with him, and my boss, I wasn't in charge at that point, but the studio manager said to me, because I had worked on this job with this guy, would I present it to the person who wanted the job, the client? So I said, yeah. And this other guy I'd worked with, the first 5 samples were wrong. and he'd put his work on top, and they were wrong, and I had to present the client's brief wrong, because do you understand what I mean? And
that's embarrassing.
I was so embarrassed. And this guy was great. The guy was great. I think he realized, or he knew something. I don't know whether he thought it was me or not, but he realized something was wrong. He said, "I'll tell you what, I'll come back in the morning." So I said, "Great." So I had to spend the next up until midnight fixing this stuff. But this is why I like to work on my own, because I know you can get a bit insular and all that kind of thing, but I've had a belly full of disagreeing with people over nothing. I had one place I worked at, one guy, I think I've mentioned this, he came in one day and he said, "I want a brochure doing, an A4 brochure, and he gave me the brief, and the first page was 2 pages, double page spread, and he had another page." I said, "What about the 4th page?" And he didn't. I said to him, "Look, piece of paper, right?" I said, "These aren't the rules according to Glenn. These are the rules according to God. Piece of paper, fold it in half. You've got 4 pages,
Right?
4 pages, not 3. You can't have 3. You wanted to print a 3-page leaflet." But I said, "It's impossible." So he went to see my manager at the time, and when he told him I was right, he just walked off. And it's because he was working on his computer. You can do a 3-page leaflet on a computer, but you can't when you print it. You can't do it. It's impossible, because otherwise you're going to have a blank side.
Right? Yeah. I've dealt with because I do a lot of pre-press for people, for their printing and stuff. And one of the things that it's common sense, I think, is also a red flag.
Yeah.
If you find that you have like a little disagreement over nothing, and they dig their heels in over something small, then I think looking down the road, if you have something big, it's going to be a real problem.
Yeah.
When it is something that's a big, and you don't want to exhaust all of your energy always arguing over something like, okay, it can only be 3 or 4 pages.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it has to be 4 pages. No, I want 3. Well, it's physically impossible to do what you want without having a blank page. Like, I can do 3, but there'll be a big white page in there, right? Which I've told people before. It's like it's your book. I could do 4-page increments. It's best if we do 8-page increments. If I'm printing on a offset, it's got to be 8 pages. I can't do 4. It's got to be 8-page increments. And if it's not divisible by 8, you're going to have a couple of white pages in there. It'll be big blank pages, and you're wasting real estate. You might as well stick something on them, right?
Yeah.
And there's people that they just don't want to do that, right? Mm-hmm. They just don't get it. I stopped lettering for people because I had a client that was just so asinine. They had this page full of panels. It was like 9 panels. And they had it was 3 paragraphs worth of text that had to go on this page. And I'm like, I can't figure out how to fit it on here. Like, I've tried everything. I've moved bubbles around, which is the big problem when you have an artist that is just drawing the book and not thinking about the lettering.
Exactly. I worked with a guy, and I said to him, he was doing the design for I don't know what it was now, I can't remember, it's that long ago, but he was doing this design for this booklet. And he said, and when he'd done it, I said, "This is great." I said, "But where's the type going?" He said, "Oh, the typesetter can fix that."
No.
I said, "No, because it's got to be readable. The way you've drawn this, it's going to be 2-point. It's going to be nothing. You're going to need a magnifying glass to read it." "Oh, well, the typesetter." I said, "No. You can't work that way. You've got to look at the whole thing.
Got to leave room for it, yeah."
And you think, I couldn't believe he was sitting there.
The text has got to be part of the design. Yeah. It has got to be part of the flow and the energy of the piece. And people miss that so often. It's if I'm doing one of my own books, like I'm getting ready to do a number of short stories that I'm writing, where they're black and white, and I'm just doing everything. I'm just making the pages. I'm actually lettering before I do the artwork. I'll go in and I'll put in where I want my panels, I'll do roughs, and then I'll work in where the letter's going to go. And I'm like, well, I might as well just go and letter it while I'm here. Letter it and then draw all the stuff that's going to be seen, because I don't want to draw something behind a bubble, and spend 20 minutes on something behind a bubble that's going to get covered. what's the point in that, right?
Yep.
There's not much point in that, and I want to make sure that all those really cool elements work around the flow of the text.
Well, that's where the Marvel method works, isn't it? Because
it is.
We discussed this on your show, Randy, Comics by Night, about those Harvey Kurtzman books that had the lettering put in before the artist got the pages. And sometimes it works really well, but a lot of times it doesn't. And that's why the Marvel method, I think, is halfway between that. And it works really well because, well, we know how that works with the penciler pencils. It keeps an eye on the dialogue, I suppose, in his head, if there is any. And then the dialoguer goes in there and,
writes what'll fit.
They make little notes around the originals.
Yeah,
and then somebody will go through and dialogue it and send it to the letterer.
Yeah, and then the letterer, and then the inker only has to ink up to the word balloons. You don't have to do the background because there's a word balloon there.
But you also had artists skilled enough to know in their storytelling on the pages to leave a little bit more open here because there's a big discussion.
That's right.
That kind of thing. Yeah,
that's right. That's why the greats were great, because they could do that.
Working with somebody is really like a marriage in that you have to have that communication. And if you don't have that, all you've got is a headache. If you can't get on the same level and understand the project, it's just nothing but trouble. And you don't need that on your project. Yeah.
I think one of my vocal folds, I think the one that's paralyzed, is starting to wake up a little bit. I've been singing a lot more, so I do a lot more singing. My lungs are getting stronger.
That's good.
So I got this little thing. I'll show it off here for a second. So it's this little tiny, looks like a bong, but I can set the tension for the inhale, inhalation, and exhalation. There's a dial, and I just.
Got one of those breather things like the doctor had.
Yeah. And so I breathe it in as hard as I can and hold it for as long as I can, then exhale at a steady flow, and that helps with the muscle control. And this has really been helping.
That's good.
It's really been helping. That, and then just making myself sing, when I have to. So guys, it's time for our next segment. This next segment is I'll never financially recover from this.
I am never going to financially recover from this.
I don't know if you saw this, but Embracer writes down Asmodee and Dark Horse and shows big loss for quarter and fiscal year. Embracer Group wrote down its value of Asmodee and Dark Horse, part of a big loss it reported for the quarter and fiscal year ending in March of 2024. In its fiscal quarter 4, Embracer lost $1.7 billion compared to a $71.6 million profit in the year ago quarter.
Ow!
Wow!
All dollar figures. I don't know. The company's loss for the full year ended with March 2024 was also around $1.7 billion, compared to $415 million profit for the previous year fiscal.
Wow. What was the big change? The big loss for the year came from asset write-downs, both in companies that sold and companies that remain on the Embracer balance sheet. Oh, okay. No, they're just bookkeeping.
When companies are acquired, the difference between the value of the hard asset the acquired company owns and the price paid for the company goes on the acquirer's, Embracer's balance sheet as a goodwill asset. In the case of Asmodee, goodwill was written down by $630 million, or around 20% of the rough $3.1 billion acquisition price Embracer paid when it bought Asmodee. The goodwill of Dark Horse was written down by around $63 million. The acquisition price for Dark Horse has not been disclosed. For both companies, the reasons cited for the write-downs were macroeconomics headwinds. I like how macroeconomic headwinds and rising interest rates combined with prudent future expectations. Does that mean anything to
It sounds like
to
a bunch of
anyone?
gobbledygook to me.
Come on, Kowalski.
It's all gobbledygook. Macroeconomic headwinds
Yeah.
and rising interest rates combined with prudent future expectations.
Someone has a thesaurus. The next impact on Embracer's balance sheet of the write-downs was less than the goodwill impairment due to revaluations, sorry, of earnouts related to the acquisitions, the company said. Embracer also lost around $800 million from the sale of video game studios.
It sounds to me what it is, what they're saying in polite economic speak, is that they got into these companies, they bought into these companies, and once they were in, they realized that the value of them was not what they paid for.
Right. They made a bad deal.
That's the loss that they hit. Yeah.
A bad deal. They made a bad deal. The company also had expenses related to other aspects of its restructuring program, including layoffs, which began last June. As of the end of March, the restructuring program has been completed, the company said in its reports. It's worth noting that all of the write-downs and asset sales losses listed above do not affect cash, but do affect the book value of the company.
Yeah.
So they're making the same amount of money. They're still bringing that in, but they spent money on something that they thought was worth more than what it was.
The value
it's an unfortunate thing
of the companies that they bought were not up to their expectations.
Hence the guerrilla market tactics that keep independence alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. I'm going to go ahead and move into our next segment now that we're over the financial hump here.
Got to wonder what that's going to do to Dark Horse, you know?
Yeah,
yeah.
It's funny that they haven't disclosed the acquisition price.
Well, maybe they're not, happy with it. They're not proud of it. Whoever kind of might have made out really good on Dark Horse's end. They're former owners.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. Somebody was able to buy a new car.
I know more than you.
All right.
Guys, here is some cool stuff that's going on. Remember, we talk a lot about manga young adult, and I talked about going into the bookstore and seeing this. Well, finally, Marvel is focusing on a long-time awesome character that is a lot of people's favorite character, mind you. But they're going to focus on the Marvel, on Storm, as she joins the Avengers. But she's also going to get a solo series and a young adult novel, starting to focus more on young adult novels. So this is not as important as... this is kind of lumped in with some of this other news that Oni Press, now next year, they're going into middle grade and young adult graphic novels as well. People are seeing that, they're chasing that Scholastic's dollar.
Mm-hmm.
You see it. Randy, you've been saying this for, I think, as long as you've been on this show.
Yeah.
That Scholastics is the new comic book industry. Basically.
They're mainstream. They're not new by any stretch, but they really got their handle into the kids market by picking up the independent comic Bone by Jeff Smith and using that as a almost like a test dummy in order to cut their way into the markets that they wanted to get into. And then they started doing original material, and Dav Pilkey, who was already at Scholastic doing Captain Underpants, which is a combination of picture and prose books, started doing straight comics and did Dogman, which has turned out to be incredibly successful, and then is now doing the Cool Cat Comics Club. And that really opened the gate for graphic novels in general. Jeff Smith and Bone and Scholastic using that property in order to go through and hit the libraries and the schools with a really, and if you haven't read Bone, everybody should. It's a really solid, very fun property. So
DC is going to release sequel to its kids comics. Primer as a 3-issue series.
yeah, everybody's.
So here we go, and that 3 issue is going to be turned into a trade.
In the comic business, it's always been somebody will go out and try something different, and then 5 people will chase after them. And by the time they start chasing after them, the market gets so saturated that nobody else can. None of the other little independent guys are going to get in.
If you look at this, Meyer is now carrying young adults, graphic novels, games, and more.
They've always done that.
They have, but they're ramping it up.
Well,
they're giving a bigger section to it now.
Yeah, this is kind of them going, "Hey, Myers too," kind of thing. But they've always had a good rack of Scholastic books. Everybody does that wants to sell comics and books. You know,
they do sell
the best. Yeah, they sell.
They do sell. They sell. What's not selling is these floppies that are out there right now.
Well, it's a whole different market. It's a whole different format, a whole different dog, really. With Myers, even Marvel and DC trying to do collections, they can't sell them at Myers and Walmart's because the history is so convoluted on their continuity. That's why they're cutting back and doing these YA books, which are really dumbed down versions of these characters in the hopes that, that are more soapbox than comics, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, and the thing is, you don't have to dumb these down. All you have to do is not put graphic content in there, and it's suitable for young adult.
Well, it takes talent to get the message across in an entertaining fashion, and there's a lot. Marvel and DC especially, trying to reach this market, are in desperate need of better talent.
Yeah,
how's that?
I don't know.
How's that for trying to be polite?
That's nice. You did a good job there.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Dark Horse is doing
besides Miller's World.
But you see, Scholastic's got a jump on them. They've got a good 6, 7, 8 years, maybe even a decade, because they've discovered Raina Telgemeier. They've gotten Dav Pilkey out into literally becoming a producing machine, doing product after product after product that the kids want to buy. So, and if you open those Dav Pilkey books, the first thing that I thought when I opened them up was, what grade school kids drawn this thing? Because it looks horribly rustic, but the stories are very entertaining. The books are very solid, and that's why the kids love them.
You know what they say?
It goes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, every time you've heard the old adage, every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
Yeah,
that's wrong. Every time a bell rings, Dev Pilkey produces a new book. That's
well, it shows you it's the power of comics in that you don't have to be the best artist. You don't have to be the most realistically drawing person on the planet in order to do an entertaining comic. You just have to be able to get your point across and tell your story in an entertaining enough fashion that people were glad that they bought you.
Yep, exactly.
And that's what
welcome, Wolfbreaker. Welcome, Gray Cloudy Day.
Dogman, after 13 volumes, has kind of proven Dav Pilkey has figured out the system that he can produce this stuff, and he kicks out, 4 books, 5 books a year now.
Yeah.
And the only thing I hope is that he's been being sincerely compensated for his efforts, because all the kids love it. Scholastic's done more to get kids to read comics in the last 10 years than what Marvel and DC have done in the last 30.
Yeah.
And more power to them.
So I would like to segue into kind of this conversation about being the kind of person that people will want to work with. I mean, we all kind of found people, and we kind of see the kind of person that people doesn't want to work with, right? The one that's like, they're constantly complaining or moaning on social media. I think, that's a telltale sign that person is going to be a complainer, that they're going to have some sort of entitlement and victimhood throughout the process. We see people that, that they fail to capture the vision of the person in charge of the project or creating the project. So how do we, fix the communication thing? How do we become better communicators? How do we find a way to grab the vision of whoever is the team lead? How do we add, at the same time, adding that special flair that's only unique to us that will make people want our touch on that project? I think that's because Dav is an example of that. I think, he started creating books, and it was about the storytelling, right? There's a lot of elitists out there that say comics have to look like this, they have to be this many pages, they have to do this, and they put a lot of barriers to an art form that had zero barriers when it started.
Well,
really, the only barrier to it was that it had to be printed on paper.
Yeah, a lot of it is Pavlovian too. This is what they grew up with. They grew up with a 32-page floppy, so that's what they think that they have to do all the time, and that's not at all the case.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do a book thinking it's going to get slabbed and graded. So you have to fit a specific plastic case or a bag or a board. You can go out there and do any kind of comics you want, and there's been some really great experiments over the years, and I'm sure there's people out there that are playing around with other formats now that really need to bring them out. I mean, that's how you ended up with the comic. Literally was what the publisher was, or the printer was able to do that was convenient for their presses. They were able to fold it down and cut it at a certain size and run so many pages, and
Well, that's why Golden Age was the size it was, because it was roughly the width of a comic strip that would be in a paper.
Mm-hmm.
They just took that and printed it, and then cut it and stapled.
Yeah, and back then with the old presses, that's how you ended up with like Big Little Books and all those. And there was at least a good half dozen totally different formats that came out that used the same material and just printed it on a different size. If you go back to 77, I think that's the last really good example of how the many different sizes that comics are. Go out there and look and see how many different versions of Marvel's A New Hope, the first Star Wars movie, it came out in. Regular paperback size, all the way to large treasury size, broken down into multi-parts, collected together in so many different formats. It was crazy.
We were talking about music backstage before we got started on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that vinyl is becoming more and more popular, and artists are now they're getting their stuff pressed on vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
And as a person that's been in studios, both high end and Nashville studios and home studios alike, all over the place, I've recorded on digital and I've recorded on tape, big tape deck, big box, beautiful. And so I can tell you that the sound quality on the high end digital stuff, that it is more true to the sound in the room than on tape. But for some reason people really like recording to tape because of the organic feel to it. When there is a loss in quality recording onto the tape. And I was also talking about, Glenn, you were talking about CDs versus old vinyl.
Yeah.
What was that you were saying about all the extras that you get in there?
I'm not quite sure what you mean. You mean the album sleeves?
Yes. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I was saying earlier that although I've got lots of CDs, I've got lots of vinyl records. I don't play the vinyl too often. But one of the things about it's just going back 5 minutes to what you were saying about collaboration. This is why there's so many challenges in the world, because everybody's got a different view, even though they're moving in the same direction. So what I'm saying is that when we were kids, when me and Randy were kids, and we get an LP, an album, a long player, it was this size, you know how big they are, and you had this beautiful disc in it, and you got the words in it, you got a booklet in it, you fold that gatefold album covers, absolutely brilliant and stunning pieces of artwork on some of them. Most of them really good. You really got value for money. And then CDs came along and sort of knocked it on its head. Smaller, literally compact disc. You couldn't damage it to as easy as a vinyl. It was more convenient. But I think they missed an opportunity, and this is just me, they should have put that compact disc in the same size album cover, because all they did was squash everything down. And you know how big a CD is; it's only that big, and you can't read it. It's not as nice an experience. Because I don't know about Randy or you, Luke, but I've many times I've sat at the record player, put Simon and Garfunkel on, and had the notes in front of me, listened to it while I'm reading the notes. You know.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
now
absolutely.
it's a little booklet that you can hardly see, and you got to get a magnifying glass out. And the sound is too good for me. That's why vinyl is warmer.
That's the whole point, though. Like you, kind of like what you said earlier. When you bought an album, you bought an experience.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the sound; it was the pictures as well. It was the books. It was the fold out. The lyrics were right there. The CD took that away. Unless you had a magnifying glass or really good eyes. Nowadays, you download it digitally, you don't get any of that.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't get the book, you don't get the cover, you don't get the phenomenal. And a lot of people there were frames, a lot of people would take their albums, literally put them under frame and hang them on a wall because the artwork was that pretty.
Yeah.
You know, it's like comics today. Back in the golden age, you bought an experience, you bought an anthology book. That you didn't just buy Superman in Action Comics. There was, a half a dozen other features in there, Zatara and Congo Bill and all of this. You bought it. The kids would sit down and they'd lose a half an hour going through 5 or 6 different stories. Where nowadays you get 1/6 of a taste of maybe kind of a story if your writer is talented enough to actually know how to write a story, and a bunch of pretty pictures that sometimes don't even add anything to the quality or to the furthering of the plot of your story. You're not giving away experiences anymore. You're just handing out glimpses.
Yeah.
Instead of products. And it gets kind of irritating.
It's like everything else. It's time. It's humans and time. Everything gets watered down. I went to a lot of concerts in the 70s and 80s. I saw everybody. And I would always buy a T-shirt, a badge, and especially the program. And you get all sorts of information in there. Same thing with the album cover. But later, I noticed, I went to see Diana Ross, and the magazine, the program that you got was a lot of money. It was something like £12. This is 1982, so that's probably about 60 quid now for the brochure, And all it was 32 pages of colour photographs of her singing, no text. So I didn't get
pictures.
That. Whereas before, I would get all information about where they were born and what albums have been on and where they've
all the stuff you want to know.
Oh, there's all that trivia stuff. I like all that kind of stuff.
You can get all that on Wikipedia now, so they don't think that you need it. So,
but they didn't have Wikipedia in 1982,
right?
Yeah.
So I think the best way to experience music is live. For me, nothing beats going to a concert. Outside of that, the best way to experience music is on this thing called a Laserdisc. It's a big, giant CD-looking thing, but you hear every nuance and every bit of what is in the room being recorded. It's recorded on the highest-end mics, the highest-end consoles. It is absolutely an amazing experience. The best way to listen to it is on the compact disc player with giant speakers, so you're surrounded by the sound. The problem I think with a lot of the digital ways is that they're so clean and they're so perfect, kind of like what Wokebreaker is saying here, is that they're so clean and they're so perfect that they start to feel sterile and impersonal. And it's almost like recording to tape. You have to accept, because you only get a few takes, so you have to accept some of the mistakes. And on vinyl, the way however it sounds coming off of that needle, the needle impacts the sound. That particular press of that vinyl will impact the sound. Not only that, your speaker, everything else. The atmosphere outside, if it's cold in the room, hot in the room, will impact the sound of that. And it's just all those little tiny nuances that are labeled as mistakes.
Yeah, it's
right?
all
is what makes it best.
It's all about sensations and being a human and having sensations. I'll give you an example. When the stylus hits the vinyl and it makes that click, and then it comes on, and it's the same as picking up. It's why digital printing, not printing, but online webtoons, I think they go webcomics, whatever they call,
Yeah,
doesn't work because how many people? There's three of us here, and I'm one. I'll admit before I say it. Smell a book.
I do.
You can't do that
Every time.
you can't do that on the screen.
No.
And there's all these little things about being human that we like, these sensations. And if you listen to the Beatles, as at the top of my head, Beatles in My Life, right? John Lennon singing In My Life. If you listen right at the end, you can hear him take his fingers off the fretboard. And I used to hear this on the vinyl really low, and I used to wonder what it was. And then when I got a CD, it was clear what it was. Yeah. So it sort of helped in that way. But do you understand what I mean? Yeah. You can hear him taking the fingers off his guitar.
Yeah.
And it goes, that noise, mate.
A lot of those happy accidents become the unique standout points for the recording. I mean, I love listening to Professor Rock on YouTube go in and talk about different albums and different songs, and you get somebody in there going, well, we found a fuzzy box sitting in the corner and decided to hook it up and kind of like the sound of it, so we put it on the recording, and that's the part in the song that stands out the most. Or that comes across that transparency. It's like the attraction of podcasting, and having folks sit and listen to us jabber away about our experiences. They like it because of the transparency.
So I think
the experience again.
I think the same is true of art. I think
that is art.
Now I'm a digital artist. Okay, I draw on the tablet. I also do some traditional stuff, but primarily 99% of what I do is done on the computer. But I've created a rule for myself that I only draw a line 3 times. Like, I'll only undo twice.
Yeah.
If I have to undo a third time, I just don't do it. I don't do it. I fix it another way. I fix it how I would traditionally. In fact, I hardly ever use the undo button anymore. It is, I try to treat my digital tools like I would my physical tools. Because it's the little nuance in the art that makes it personal and I think more interesting. Early on when I started getting into learning how to draw on the computer, there was a book that I got from an artist at DC, and he would do selection tools and he would do lines that were vector so that he could move vector lines to get it to where it was perfect, and everything was just so pristine and perfect that it felt stale to me. That's what I noticed, especially when I tried to copy or emulate the things that he was telling me to do. And when he looked at it, I'm like, visually it looks right, it looks good, but it doesn't feel like art to me. It feels less than human, and which AI is even worse now.
Can I tell an experience? When I went to Paris to the Louvre to see the Mona Lisa, and I didn't actually see it because it was revealed later that it was a fake. That they'd moved it. They'd taken the Mona Lisa down in 1938 when they knew the Germans were coming, and forgot to put it back on the wall when he was done. When they were done, yeah. So I was thinking, there's a good case for being sued there, because all the millions of people who made that pilgrimage to the Louvre to see the Mona Lisa, like me, and they haven't done because it was a fake. But anyway, that's
all fake. Yeah.
But when I was there was a fresco thing, one of them big wall-sized things that somebody'd done, and it was from like 1509. This painting, one of these. The kind of things where they had Jesus on and he's laying back and Mary's there and all them sort of biblical things. And there was a corner of this thing. This didn't happen while I was there, but a corner of this fresco, the paint had fallen off, and on the board underneath it was a foot, which didn't work with the rest of the painting. And there was this big almighty, what is this? Is this a message? Is this a secret message? And I remember saying, no, the drawing he was doing, he didn't like, so he just painted over it.
Yeah.
They couldn't work it out, and there's this big debate for years. I don't know where this story's going or coming from, but I'm just telling you, it's just like
It's the happy accidents.
he
It's the
didn't
mistakes.
have an undo button, did he? He just left it there. He just drew something else over the top because he didn't have another
Just
piece of
covered it.
board. You know what I mean?
I think that's I like watching some of those like tattoo cover-up shows because they have to work with whatever there. They can't erase.
Yeah.
There's no erasing. You know, so I do find that interesting. Finding somebody and being somebody that can communicate what the vision of the project is and produce what's needed, what's wanted.
Yeah.
You know, I followed the prompts for Pawn, and what was funny is the prompts led me to something that was a little different than what the writer envisioned. But when he saw how I interpreted his prompts, it prompted him to write a little different story. He's like, oh, I kind of like where this is going. Now I'm going to do this and do that. And as I'm getting into these pages, this guy's jacked up, man. He was writing a jacked up story. It's good. I like it. It's very good. But it's that, you know, it's that back and forth. It's that ebb and flow. There's one thing where it talks about something. I'm like, well, what's your vision for that? What's it supposed to look like? You know? And when I asked the question, he was like, well, I was just thinking this, but he's like, what's going on in your head? Like when you're asking that question, what are you thinking? So I just explained what I was thinking. I'm like, maybe some weird kind of whatever, you know, because I get these, like, you know, we're all a product of our experiences and the things that we've consumed and that we've been a part of in our imagination. And so,
well, there's a fine line.
It's just like playing music in a band where
there's a fine line. There's a fine line. It's like this guy who was so awkward that I worked with. It wasn't that he didn't understand what I said. It was that he wanted to do what he wanted to do. Now you could have a miscommunication. You could ask me to do something, and for whatever reason, whether it's what you said or my ears aren't working, I don't give you what you wanted. There's a difference between you telling me you want this in red and I do it in blue because I like blue.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the fine line, and that's why it's good when you do meet somebody that you can collaborate with, whatever you're doing. You know, it can be anything. Not to be comic, it could be anything. I guess getting married to someone, you know, we've all done that. You meet somebody, you think, yeah, this person, and they're obviously feeling the same thing. You know, that's why you stay together. And but like I said, there's a difference between the belligerence of people, because some people just won't listen to what you say. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to do it my way. Well, I'm not going to work with those people. I've worked with those people before, and I don't do it anymore.
You know, I recently had to break up with someone that was like that. You know, that it was their way, and you don't know what you're talking about, and anything that was said to the contrary was a slight to them in what they were trying to do. And you know, it's like, look, this is not a collaboration. You know, in some cases, like, there's a collaboration where you expect to have some feedback, some input from the other person. And then there's cases where it's not a collaboration at all. It's, I need this exact thing, like what you said. I need it in red. I need it 200 point Helvetica font. That's what I need. It is not up for debate. This is what I want. And when people start trying to get creative on the things that are not up for debate, that's when I know that I can't work with them. And so I try to be the opposite of that. When someone comes in, it's like, and they say that it has to be this, then I make sure those are the first things that go on the page. That's the first things that they get. Like I did a layout for a cover, and I'm waiting to hear back on the finished piece, but I did a layout for it. And they were like, well, actually, I was thinking more like this. And so turns out they really wanted more of an homage cover. So they gave me the image they wanted the homage of, right? But in the prompt, like, it had to have these other things in there. And so I made sure that those things were in the prompt, like in the picture. I made sure they were drawn in there before I went about drawing buildings and smoke and clouds and stuff like that, you know,
All the
because
detail.
that's what they wanted. That's what was important to them. It was important enough for them to tell me twice, so I should definitely listen to that. And I think that's what makes a good collaborator. And sometimes, you know, it might come down to time, but it also comes down to communicating, but also being a person of your word, doing what you say you're going to do. Guys, we've got just a couple minutes left. I want to go ahead and close this out today. First thing I want to do is make sure everyone knows about this. I got to do a little housekeeping. Right now I have a new book that is getting ready to come out. I'm going to be sending it off to print here in about a week, maybe. Yeah, probably a week, if that. It is, and the only way it's available is through my channel members. Membership is $5 a month, okay? But it includes physical books when I get them done. So, but you do get updates on those stories as they're done. You get updates on hybrids, and you actually get some input on what books and what stories I start telling next and I start working on next. So this is, if you do a year, it's only $50, so you're only paying for 10 months instead of 5 months, but or 12 months. Why did I say that? But member access is available right here, and that will take you to some special parts of the site where you can grab member access up here. And as you can see, I'm not a member yet. I'm not signed in as a member, so you can't. So it doesn't recognize me, but you'll get access to comics, a newsletter, and things like that. Definitely check that out. That's how I'm going to be doing. Some of these books will go to crowdfund later, but because I'm so busy working with everyone else on crowdfunding, this is the way I'm going to do it for now. It also motivates me to do more of my personal projects that people are interested in, because you're telling me exactly what you want me to work on by giving me $5 a month to do it. So become a channel member. The other thing I want to talk about is arrowcomics.store. We do have new comics up in the Arrow store right now. If you go to comics, you can see we have apparel, physical and digital. We do have Alice in Chains up. Number 1, it's available on the store only. The Fool is available over here. We also have Soltac 1, 2, and 3. We will have 4 up soon. I need to, as soon as I get physical prints in, we'll do that. Riff Riders over there. You can also order a shirt. Most of these are also in digital. We still have to get a couple of digital up for these two. But Spank the Monkey is only available in digital. You can go over there and get those right there. So guys, check out arrowcomics.store. This is the place to go. We are also toying around with a membership for digital comics. Free access to digital comics through a membership at arrowcomics.store. So we're talking about that, and we hope to release that information. We're also working on another project that we're very excited about. Once we have some samples and things are a little more concrete, hopefully in the next week or two, we will be announcing those things as well. You're not going to want to miss that. Let's just say we're thinking outside of the box and outside of the standard format for how we share stories and news about what we're doing and about what's happening in the indie comics industry. Guys, make sure to check those things out. That's all I have. How about you guys?
There's a lot more coming into the store, so keep stopping by and taking a look. We'll be making a lot more additions from here on, and there's
Shadow
a lot.
Kingdom will be added.
We've already got a lot of stuff that we want to show you. Yeah, Shadow Kingdom's out over off of the North American continent, and it's at the printer over here, and it'll be out shortly. We got a great review up there on YouTube from Iskander, I believe the person's first name is, about Shadow Kingdom. He got a copy from Russ and was able to go through it, and we're real grateful for his review. It's looking really good. Can't wait for folks to see the book over here. Hope everybody enjoys it as much as we did putting it together.
Yes. If you need any work done, Glenn is a great person to hire. He does illustration, he does covers, he does colors, he does logo designs, and I've worked with him. He is quick, he is professional, he has a joy to work with. So,
did the Shadow Kingdom logo? So yeah, turned out really well.
And the Atlantean.
And the Atlantean logo. That'll be coming.
Yeah.
Yep.
Really enjoyed working on that.
He did a logo for The Runner, which is a story that's in the new book that I'm doing called Other Realms, which is what will be shipped out here at the beginning, early stages of next month, to all of the channel members. Is that Other Realms book? So he did the Other Realms logo for me. So Other Realms issue 1 is coming out. After a few months, I'll probably stick it up on the Arrow Comics store. So you'll be able to get it there too. But for now, first looks, first access for all my stuff there is we're going to squeeze it out through channel members for encouraging me with your monthly donation to keep me on track telling those stories. So I do appreciate it very much. Thank you, panel, for being here. I want to thank you to the chat for being here today. Thank you for my admins throwing in links. You guys are awesome. Don't forget to check out fundmycomic.com. We've got a lot of great stuff going on over there. One of the cool things I did want to show you this morning was, if you notice, here's a banner for fundmycomic.com right there at the Bleeding Fool website.
There you
We're
are.
looking at getting our banner put on a few different news sites and what it would cost to do that. So that's what we're working on right there. And if you go to fundmycomic.com, you're going to notice there are some amazing projects over there doing quite well. Right now, Nexus Scourge has an exclusive reward that they just put up there. It's only available on Fund My Comic. Where is it? It is the autographed edition, I think, is the, where is it? Maybe it's this hardcover. I can't remember which one it is. It's one of these hardcovers. I think it's this one right here. Yeah, Nefarious. It's this one right here. This one's only available over here on this campaign. Look at that beautiful art.
Yeah.
Talk about being able to tell a story. Kelsey Shannon is
Really good.
just dynamic. Very dynamic. I've always loved his stuff.
Yeah.
And not highly rendered. Doesn't really fit into the mold of what a lot of people think the comic books are supposed to be like this super high rendered stuff, lines all over the place. But good stuff.
There's a lot to be said for style. I'm telling you.
A lot of good stuff over there. Check it out. Campaign's coming and going. Phenomenova will be coming back any day now. So it is going to be in storefront mode over there. Star Circuit was just added over here. Is funding other places as well. But you're definitely going to want to check out Star Circuit here if you haven't. Look at this art, dude.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Looks nice.
High energy. Just really cool. Fun. Bright colors. Sexy girls. Again, stylistic. I don't know, guys. I really like the stylistic type art.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I like it a lot.
When I see this kind of artwork color on the computer, I just want to get my color inks on it with a brush. I know that can't happen, but that drawing there, I'd love to get into that. But it is good.
Oh yeah, all good stuff, man. So yeah, definitely check out Fund My Comic, guys. Go over there. It is growing. Fundiverse is also growing. Chatting with some people about bringing their projects over. Got a game company. Can't really announce anything yet, but a game developer that they do all manners of games, video games, board games, all kinds of games that are wanting to use Fundiverse as their crowdfunding platform.
Sweet.
So yeah, and so we're still working on building that one up over there, and good things are in the horizon. If you keep working hard, guys, keep it up. Remember, it is easy to tear things down. It's almost natural for us to want to complain, but let's find the positive in things. Let's keep building up. Get out there, create, make some good stuff happen. Leave the woodpile higher than you found it. By all means, my friends, please be careful out there.
Let's be careful out there. Let's be careful out there. We had a 187 at the 7-Eleven on the corner of 4th and Main. 2
persuasion for the bullet through the cashier's brain. Moving on, I see it 211, half a dozen 459, 218 W's a GTA, several miscellaneous crimes.